What's the craziest thing you've ever seen on Netflix? I think mine is probably My Octopus Teacher. Made me cry a few times. That was a good one. But this is not about octopus. Octopi. This is about some killers. We're talking about some serial killers for this one. We're getting really, really dark for this one. Yeah. I'm Taylor McWaters, and here are the top 10 evil people in history who have been turned into Netflix series. Here we go. Number 10, Ted Bundy. One of the most famous killers of all time right off the hop. Here we go. Ted Bundy. He killed upwards of 30 people during his crime spree in the 1970s. Now, most interviews with Ted are extremely well known. We've watched them and been shocked and sick to our stomach, dare I say. But there's one interview that's very disturbing that's not quite as popular as the others. In this interview, he's talking about taking the life of an 18-year-old student named Georgianne Hawkins. Now, the chilling part of it, of course, other than the matter at hand, is how he talks about these things just so matter-of-factly, almost like it's a casual conversation between friends and not him, describing the most horrific acts that he committed.
At this point, she was quite lucid, talking about things. It's funny, it's not funny, but it's odd, the kinds of things people say under those circumstances.
Now, of course, over on Netflix, you can pick a number of installments involving Ted Bundy. There's Conversations with a Killer. There's a movie called Extremely Wicked, Shockingly Evil and Vile with Zac Efron, so choose your fate. Either way, it's chilling stuff. This is dark history. Number 9, The Staircase. Yes, The Staircase. This one's a classic true crime staple. One of the most widely debated cases ever, honestly. In 2001, Kathleen Peterson was sadly found dead in her home. Now, this docuseries follows the investigation and a few of the theories surrounding the case and the trial. They're pretty interesting. Kathleen was found at the bottom of her stairs at her home, and while it was originally regarded as a fatal but accidental fall that caused her passing, as the investigation unfolded, the truth got muddier and muddier. Michael has always been somewhere near the top of the suspect list, considering that he was the last one to see her alive, and he was actually home and was supposedly in the backyard when said fall occurred down the stairs. From theories of Michael's infidelities all the way to a barn owl, there's lots of speculation about this case. And this documentary is definitely one to watch if you're a true crime lover. You'll be thinking about it for a while. I'm thinking about it right now and I'm like, I don't know. I still don't know. Join in on the debate in the comments down below. Did he do it? Did he not do it? Sound off. I'm curious to see who's on Team Staircase here. Number 8, Don't F with Cats. When I say that this was one of the most captivating documentaries I've ever seen, I really mean that. I was late to the party. I watched it long after its release because I was like, I don't really want to see any of that happen. But from the moment I started this, I could not stop until I was done. The documentary follows the sad story of the killing of Lynn Jun, which is one of Canada's most infamous crimes ever. Now, Lynn was killed by a man named Luca Magnotta, who was already stirring up some internet buzz, who was posting some pretty horrific videos before this horrible crime even happened. As the title hints towards, he was with some cats. The documentary follows a couple of unbelievable cyber sleuths who saw Luca's messed up videos and who were intent on finding out who he was, where he was, why this is happening before, it got worse, which it did. Now, the crimes themselves are absolutely horrible the whole way through. It's dark, it's really hard to watch, but the story is almost unbelievable. But the work that these cyber sleuths do is incredible. It's definitely worth the watch. You see someone, I don't want to spoil it, but like you see someone get busted by internet wizards. It's amazing. The documentary really has it all if you're a true crime person. It's really hard to watch because of how tragic it is, but again, it's worth it in the end. You see them catch them. It's psycho. Number 7, Warren Jeffs. Warren Jeffs is the president of the Fundamentalist Church of Jesus Christ in the Latter-day Saints and is also serving a life plus 20-year sentence, which is exactly what he should be getting. That's horrible. I would definitely make it more if I could, but I don't have that power, do I? His father was once the president of the cult, but when he passed, the position was passed on to young Warren. As a new leader of the polygamous cult, he said that no one should ever attempt to marry one of his father's widows. But then just a few days later, he himself married all of them except 2, because one refused and then was banned from ever marrying again, and the other just simply ran away. Yeah, if your marriage proposal causes someone to flee a cult that they're in, you're clearly not the one. You're doing something wrong here, dare I say. Warren had the power to assign who would marry who and all that horrible stuff, but he was also able to punish a man by taking his wives and children and assigning them to another man. Just another family to another person. It's psychotic. As a man, you have to have at least 3 wives in order to get into heaven. That was the rule. That was his holy golden rule. But the more wives, the more likely it would be that you got into heaven, so this led to this horrible fate. In 2005, the Texas authorities conducted a raid and took legal custody of 416 young individuals, and in 2006, Warren was arrested for being the worst human garbage imaginable and is still serving his sentence today. There's so much more to this case that we don't have time to cover on this, short YouTube video, but there's a documentary released called Keep Sweet, Pray and Obey, which I would fully recommend if you want to know more about this case. Number 6, Richard Iceman Kuklinski. Richard Kuklinski got his name in the most gruesome way possible. He became one of America's most prolific killers after being hired by the famous Five families in New York City. Now, he had around a 30-year career as a contract killer, and while he only ended up being charged and convicted for 4 killings, he had claimed that the number was actually closer to 250. This is insane. When we think of what an assassin would look like, he may not be at the top of the list, right? More than fair, which may partially be what helped him be so successful in getting away with such horrible crimes. While he killed his victims in a multitude of ways, he was dubbed the Iceman due to the fact that he froze all of the bodies. Now, he did this to ensure that the coroners would be unable to determine their true time of death. Now, Richard, he's actually not still serving his sentence. Richard ended up passing away in jail in 2006. Yeah, we know that time of death. That one we do know. We know that one very well. The Iceman, Netflix, dark stuff, check it out. Number 5, Jeffrey Dahmer. Yeah, Jeffrey's one of the most well-known serial killers, with his crimes taking place from 1978 to 1991. His crimes are much too brutal and horrific to detail on this channel right now, but he's known for taking the lives of 17 different people. I'll say that. Now, at his trial, not only did he plead not guilty, but his attorney had some interesting words for the court. We love when that happens. His attorney stated that his bloody pattern had caused him to believe that he was the devil, which was intended to bolster his insanity plea. His attorney said that he became enamored, overwhelmed, dare I say, caught up in the character from The Exorcist 3. Said character was Satan because he was the, personification of evil. Sure. Not only was Jeffrey found to be sane and ended up being sentenced to multiple life sentences prison, but not too long after his sentence started, he was killed by a fellow inmate. Nice. I wonder if the devil made him do it. Wouldn't that be ironic? The Netflix movie starring America's sweetheart, Evan Peters, is titled Monster Dahmer. It's pretty good. Check that one out as well. And the Jeffrey Dahmer story leaves that part out. It was a dark ending for an evil person, but they leave out the fact that he died. So, spoilers, but you should know this going in. It helps. Number 4, Richard Ramirez. Also known as the Night Stalker, with a Netflix documentary under the same name. Richard Ramirez was a serial killer who terrorized the streets of Los Angeles back in 1980s, okay? He was known for invading homes, which actually initially dubbed him as the walk-in killer, but he had another signature that was concerning to many people, especially during the height of the Satanic Panic. Yeah, Richard was known for leaving behind different satanic messages at the scene of all of his crimes. That's like the worst thing I've ever heard. Because of his satanic signature after he left his first pentagram at the scene of a crime, authorities became worried that he was a Charles Manson copycat, which more than fair. We don't want another one of those. Holy But instead, he was just his own kind of individual, dare I say, unique monster. So nice. Doing it his own way. Awesome. It is said that he would leave more pentagrams behind while also telling his victims to swear to Satan instead of swearing to God. So yeah, just a lunatic. During his court appearances, he would hold up a pentagram, and after pleading not guilty, he said, "Hail Satan." So yeah. I would say the devil, but yeah, he's literally the devil. Yeah. Number 3, Unabomber, in his own words. The description of this Netflix series says, anchored by a rare interview, this docuseries details Ted Kaczynski's path from a young intellectual to one of the most feared people in US history. And the series really just does that. Ted Kaczynski is most often referred to as the Unabomber due to the atrocious crimes that he committed. He was also known as being quite bright from a young age, and it's believed that he had an IQ of around 167. He was accepted into Harvard at the age of just 16, and he went on to receive a PhD at only age 25. Things were looking bright for the guy, dare I say, as he landed himself a job as an assistant professor at the University of California, Berkeley, right? As I'm saying this, it's all great on paper. So far, we're like, okay, where does it get 2 years later, he resigned from said position and then obviously took a drastic and dark turn. In 1971, Ted moved to a remote cabin in Montana that had no electricity, no running water, just already a grim start. And from 1971 until 1977, Ted learned to live as a hermit, right? Off the grid style while learning different survival skills. But once 1978 rolled around, he was ready to start his terror campaign. From here until 1995, he began a nationwide attack against people who were involved with modern technology. He planted these weapons or he would mail them, and in the end, he took the lives of 3 people and severely injured 23. Ted was captured, tried, and sentenced to life in prison with no possibility of parole. So yeah, he's not mailing any more weapons or any explosives anytime soon, thank God. Number 2, Conversations with a Killer, the John Wayne Gacy tapes. With a nickname like Killer Clown, it's abundantly clear why everyone would want to stay away from this actual monster. He got his start and this horrific nickname by being a clown for children's birthday parties, charitable events, you name it, that sort of thing where you want to hire a clown, you might get this guy. According to Gacy himself, all of his crimes were committed inside of his ranch house where he would lure his victims into. He would then trick them into wearing handcuffs under the pretense that he was going to show them some sort of magic trick, and then from here on you can imagine the horror was just absolutely, I can't even talk about it on YouTube. It is thought that he took the lives of somewhere around 33 young men, most of which he buried in the crawl space of his home, and on the evening of December 11th, 1978, Gacy took the life of his last victim, Robert Piest. The following investigation, questioning, and searches led police to gather all the evidence they needed to arrest and charge him in his conviction for 33 killings at the time. The Netflix series involves recordings of Gacy discussing his crimes, and it's just absolutely chilling to hear. It's one thing to read about them, but then to actually hear them or witness them in any way, shape, or form, that's when it sits with you. Know what I mean? I'll end on a lighter note, because holy that was a horrible list to even get through, my gosh. Number 1, the Tinder Swindler. Okay, this documentary is the craziest thing I've ever seen in my life. It's pretty recent too, and of course, it's on Netflix. I'll try not to spoil anything here, but the memes already went out of control. You probably know enough. The Tinder Swindler is a guy named Simon Levive. He would go on Tinder, he would date women, and then he would scam them in the most insane way. It sounds pretty bad, but hearing the story told from the victims and the way it all plays out, it gets even worse once you see it. This guy was apparently hanging out with French Montana at one point. French Montana watched this documentary and posted on his Instagram story about it only a few days after. The Tinder Swindler is directed by Felicity Morris. It's amazing. It's a roller coaster. Definitely check it out. You should watch it. You know who doesn't probably want you to watch it? Simon Levive. He probably doesn't want you to watch this. He's like still out there and still trying to scam people. That's wild. I don't want to say anything. I don't want to spoil stuff, but yeah, not as fun of an ending as other ones on this list, that's for sure. I've been your host, Taylor McWaters. Keep being you, and we'll see you next time on Most Amazing Top 10. Bye.